bring some clarity in some gray zones where we notice this is where unfairness happens the most. These agreements are quite specific, I would say, to the Belgian labor conditions. I would say is we translated those agreements and those principles into an extensive toolbox. And this toolbox is really oriented towards the artists. And the whole goal of them is to empower the artists. One of the biggest issues around fair labor conditions is asking.
While we are talking about fair payment or fair practices, with that payment comes also working-related social security.
Let's just say that copyright is really a major element of the EU policy, and it underpins the European creative sector, but it also affects different parts of society, being at the crossroad of culture, digital economy and growth, and actually fundamental rights. And in 2019, after quite long and heavy and to some extent controversial negotiations, we finally had the new copyright directive in the digital single market adopted. We think this is a great and major achievement, in particular when it comes to the protection of creators, so authors and performers, because this protection is even more needed, as mentioned by our previous speakers, in the time where we are hopefully exiting the pandemic, but where in the previous last 2 years, indeed, the remuneration of many creators was heavily impacted by the pandemic. When creator first starts negotiating with another contracting party for licensing or transferring their exclusive rights of certain work or performers, the EU legislator made sure that there is a principle of appropriate and proportionate remuneration.
And this is the structural problem that cannot be solved unless culture is again evaluated more highly.
So as a result of that, the cultural sector came together and produced an agenda with 21 action points, of which the development of the Fair Practice Code was one of them. One of the artists involved in the initial conversations was also on our board, and that's how the topic was introduced to us. It felt like the right action for us as an organisation and an association to take on. It's a tool for dialogue. It's kind of like almost like it's a compass. It's a compass to guide conversations and to stimulate dialogue. It's based on 5 core values, and those are solidarity, diversity, sustainability, trust, and transparency. And then there's 3 core principles, which is fair pay, fair chain, and fair share. So fair share is about the distribution of resources. Can you really justify the director's salary if the person at the entry-level job is earning a lot less, for instance? And then fair chain is about looking at your position within the wider chain. Are you acting in a way that is showing solidarity with the people that you either employ or contract? Is that chain correct? Sometimes things are produced on very little budget, so how can you ensure that it's still done in a fair way, where everybody puts in the same amount and gets the same output? So that's it in a nutshell.
And L'Abuse, so is born from that context. And the first thing we did was to set up a platform to report abusive situations. It was a huge work, even to decide how to characterize an abusive situation and how can you describe it.
At the same time, the European Parliament, also supported by your networks, are asking the Commission to do a European framework for artists' working conditions. To what extent is it wanted or not wanted, and to what kind of what should be covered in such a European framework? Because of course not everybody is of the same opinions. You have mentioned it, the theatres have a different opinion of the artists employed, or not employed, but usually contracted, let's say. So okay, that's one thing to think about, and really glad if you have some ideas about that.